Project Nebulous, Tape 1. The current time is 9:15. It is September the 13th, 2056. It was supposedly going to be a miracle of modern science. The device my team and I created could have had countless applications, countless equations and calculations constructed to become a marvelous contraption. You would think me either narcissistic or egotistical for saying the following sentence, but I assure you that my words hold the truth within them. The item I had dreamed of and turned slowly into a reality could have solved so many problems that the world had. The energy crisis? This could have been the solution to that. Global warming caused by fossil fuels? Negated sometime after its full activation. The answer for space travel? Present within this rather heavy beacon. It had so much potential within it. Humanity could have evolved, ascended into a spacefaring race. Petty wars between countries and their leaders wouldn't have been a prevalent problematic complication as it was but a couple of years ago. To condemn a species for a single quality is something that we as humans have no ability to do so while having the moral high ground doing so ourselves. We've done it to other creatures on our own planet. Pit bulls were condemned for being an aggressive species of dog, despite humanity breeding it for the purpose of complete aggression. Dogfights being an example of that. We, as a species, have caused so many others to go extinct that it seems morbidly appropriate that our own extinction was due to ourselves. Project Nebulous, Tape 2. The time is 10:45. The day is still September the 13th, 2056. Malignancy, born and cultured within the rich. Their greed and wanton lust for power have led the events that have happened to become the truth for this small planet. My beacon, the plans and prototype for a monolith of metal and machine to provide countless amounts of power. Its source? A long-lasting, high-energy yielding material. It could have provided the world enough power for a decade before needing to be replaced. The material came from a meteor. The rare metal was vibrant, radiating light around it, though a very small amount. Another idea I had come up with at some point was the idea of a flashlight, with the cover being an iris to block and unblock light from the metal. This could have been achieved if the metal wasn't a bright iridescent blue, with hues of purples and pinks within it. Now you would think that I'm getting off topic here, but that small idea was the foundation upon which I orchestrated the plans for which the final prototype was based off of. Upon testing the strange and unique metal, we quickly found out that the light it gives off seems to have an abnormal energetic quality. We placed some in front of a small solar panel, thinking that it could respond to the metal, to which it did. However, small amounts of energy could only be harvested in the same length of time as regular daylight. The metal was, of course, tested for radioactivity, for which it can deal lethal doses fairly quickly, but not nearly as quickly as the elephant's foot in Chernobyl, and is rather safe to be near for 30 minutes, if you are wearing the insulated hazmat suits. For the sake of fulfilling a joke at the time, we also shot it with a Kalashnikov rifle. Small scratches and dents were left in the material. Project Nebulous, Tape 3. The time is 2:24 on September the 13th, 2056. From there we spent 3 years running tests and recording our findings until we figured out a way to harvest the energy more efficiently and be able to convert the energy for civil distribution. That is to say that the regular folks at home could use it. During that time, the eggheads had given it a name: Solarite. I preferred to call it Nebularite, which is what the team later named the project, the Nebulous Beacon. Not only that, but during 3 years we came across 3 issues when trying to collect the energy with regular solar panels. 1. lithium-ion batteries cannot safely store this unstable energy, resulting in explosions. 2. Overuse of the solar panels caused them to slowly burn up in front of the nebula at an accelerated rate. 3. An explosion of energy from the battery has enough power to turn a room into a trinitite-like substance and atomize organic beings in close proximity. These 3 revelations were the sole cause of the next stages of the project. The project had an acronym attached to its name. Oh, hell, what was it again? Alright, I believe it was PSC, Protect, Secure, Contain. This name was created for the project as that's what we had to do. We had to protect our supply from others and others from it. We had to make sure that this nebulite was secure within its storage container and any devices it was used within. And we had to contain the rare metallic substance, make sure it wasn't leaking radiation, and make sure the wiring and circuitry was secure and wouldn't inadvertently cause another mini Chernobyl. That was also what was incidentally the name of the room that became the first incident. Usually those rooms would have had normal designations, so the newer interns usually had a look of confusion when they looked at the nameplates of the rooms on that side of the facility. That side was named the East Nuclear Wing, ENW05, ENW06, Chernobyl, ENW08. Without fail, any intern that was being stationed in that wing had an amused look of confusion. It was entertaining to watch. Project Nebulous, Tape 4. The time is 8:58. It is still September the 13th, 2056. The prototype design for the beacon came along first after the first 2 years of research had passed. We had successfully built a holding cell for the material to contain the radioactivity, and we had developed specially developed solar panels designed for the nebula. These panels were creatively named nebula voltaic cells, or nebula panels. We were almost halfway through with researching and developing a battery that could hold this rather erratic energy source. That was only the beginning to many other avenues of research we could have taken. I said earlier that it was supposed to be a miracle of modern science. The massive list of applications this invention could have been used with is exceedingly staggering. This power source was capable of being used for so many other things. An improvised microwave, albeit that's not advised to do. The catalyst of a bomb far more devastating than any nuclear warheads this planet has seen, dreamed of, or theorized of. Or the power supply to a great hulking vehicles and machines. Tiny chips of this metal could be used within a new line of weapons, had R&D been given the time they needed after we figured out how to properly contain it. Many wanted this foreign substance to be used in WMDs. Others believed it could help with space travel, while a small few thought it should be used to solve the power crisis. All were, mostly, good suggestions of the required use of this finite supply of nebula. The use we went with was to try and think of a way to create a self-sustaining power source. This sounds as if we had finally lost our minds researching and developing solutions to problems we encountered as quickly as possible. And to that, I'd have to say you're not wrong. But you're also not completely correct. Project Nebulous, Tape 5. The time is 11 minutes past 11. It is still September the 13th. It is still the year 2056. The amount of information and knowledge I would like to impart on these recordings is too great for how little time the world may have left. Or at least a little over half the world if my hypothesis is correct. Not that it would likely matter. Even a 50% eradication event would leave the planet as good as dead. Everyone and everything included in that. The bunker I am currently within should be enough to save the people evacuated here, as well as these recordings, files, and documents. I won't be staying in this bunker, as I feel I am solely responsible for everything that is currently happening. What I can only assume is a collapsing star getting ready to explode, and the consequences after whatever happens. Enough information is being left behind so as to not repeat the same failures and mistakes, regardless of the small amount of nebulite that we managed to get from the meteor that was used during the experiments and research we performed. We quickly found out that if nebulite is within the radius of an explosion caused by the gathered energy from the metallic substance, the energy from the initial explosion is enough to cause a chain reaction of explosions. Theoretically, you could cause a never-ending chain with enough research and misplaced determination. I'll talk about it in another one of these tapes if I have the time. I regret being the lead scientist working on this project. I regret pushing the people working with me so hard. I regret not going home to my family as often as I should. My regrets are all I have. An iridescent blue ball of energy is growing while it digests the nebulite it has swallowed within its own void. The reaction is almost ready to combust. I've attempted to calculate how long is left until it ends, based on the fact that all of the solarite would contained in a 2-meter cube space, and the fact that a small chunk of energy is enough to destroy an entire block if it blows up. Factor in the 35 hours and 12 minutes already taken, with the diameter of the ball already at a paltry 1.56 meters, and the time left is around 24 hours, 48 minutes. The stroke of midnight between tomorrow and the day after. Project Nebulous, Tape 6. The time is now 9:34. It is the morning of September the 14th, 2056. After we had built the battery required and the containment cell needed to house the nebulite, and created wires strong enough to withstand the energy, we started to try and figure out a way to create a transformer that can withstand the energy, so as to distribute to different places as needed. Initially, we chose to divert it to the local power grid, and the rest of America, if possible, in the future. That only took a short time, as pieces of the nebulite that had been used in prior testing showed us that the energy is most certainly finite. While that doesn't sound as good as infinite electricity, the empty shards could be used to replace certain parts within an ideal transformer. It took us quite a while to figure out the correct combination of parts replaced and parts kept to make a transformer able to convert the immense amount of energy to a safe voltage. We took every precaution to make sure that there would be no problems. Every problem we thought we had accounted for. But it wasn't enough. The strain of machinery was too much. The initial solarite transformer blew up, sending a shockwave of energy throughout the entire system. That itself caused a chain reaction, blowing out every fuse and triggering an energy overload within the nebulite sample housed in the prototype beacon. This caused the fourth explosion to happen. We as scientists did learn 2 lessons, but had to relearn one lesson that day. 1. The amount of energy that triggers an explosion determines the size of a nebulite explosion. 2. Enough energy can cause the implosion to temporarily simulate a black hole, or at least something close to one, followed immediately by a residual explosion before fizzling out. 3. Being caught in a nebulite explosion can atomize organic compounds and beings. We were told to stop our research. We were ordered to, actually. Told it was deemed too much of a risk to continue. We didn't listen. Project Nebulous, Tape 7. The time is 10 o'clock. on the 14th of September, 2056. This will have to be the last tape. The bunker system has alerted me that 1 hour is left before the implosion happens. I do not know if those who remain in the bunker underground will live. However, I do know for certain that anything still above ground when the implosion happens will cease to exist when the event horizon of the explosion catches them. If I am wrong and some nebula exists after this small man-made tragedy happens, I implore any who listen and find them to disregard the possibility of positive outcomes of using that substance successfully. The possible failures is not worth it. It will likely never be worth it. I will be seen in history as a madman, if history survives this at all. But nevertheless, I will be labelled as a mentally unstable, careless man who went to self-destructive lengths to finish this project. Maybe they will be right. I, for one, will never be able to find out. I must prepare myself for the eventuality of oblivion. I wonder what happens when the explosion catches me.
Type 3 Doomsday event will occur in 30 minutes. Please seal the bunker's entrance and head to your assigned room. All those who wish for mortal death, please step out of the bunker before it closes.
Perhaps I will feel nothing at all.